Welcome into Talking Badgers. We're going to give you some reaction. Wisconsin wins the Axe. What else is new? But rather than talk about that specific game, I think with the season, at least the regular season, having ended, it's appropriate to talk about the Wisconsin Badgers season as a whole. It is far, far from over. And it begs the question, if you've been around this program, not just the football program, but also in basketball and in other sports, can the Badgers really deal with having nice things? And what I mean by that is there's been some absolute chaos in front of them in the college football playoff, and realistically it leaves them with the only team that has a shot of being 13-0 and getting into the college football playoff as such. Now, of course, that is predicated on beating Ohio State. Don't know how easy that's going to be. That's going to be for a later video, and for more information over at Talking Badgers, which is wisconsin.talking10.com. But I wanted to start here because I think it's important to realize just how historic this season has been, and maybe how fans and even those who cover the team have kind of become accustomed to having nice things taken away from them, realistically, when you talk about the Badgers. And so let's take a look at some of the history that has been made by the Wisconsin Badgers. That's right, Wisconsin is 12-0 for the first time in school history and completed its first undefeated regular season since finishing 7-0 in 1912. Now, also, the Badgers are the 8th Big Ten team in the modern era since 1946 to put together a 12-0 start, joining names of like Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Iowa. And with the Badgers' win over the Gophers, they got to the 100-win mark in the last decade. In fact, folks, the Badgers are just one of 5 teams to win 100 or more games in that decade. That's the likes of Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's right, national championships for 3 out of those 4 programs, and Wisconsin and Oklahoma in the mix as well. I'm pretty sure that's the company the Badgers would like to keep. And additionally, the Badgers are the very first team in the history of the Big Ten to go 9-0 in league play, and they wrapped up their first undefeated season in conference since going 5-0 in 1912. And there were some other undefeated and untied league records coming in 1897, which they're 3-0, 1901, a whopping 2-0, and 1906, 3-0-0. That is wholly impressive what the Badgers have already accomplished. But this is a team on the cusp of something the Badgers fan base has wanted for so long: completing that perfect season and playing for a national championship. It is the thing that has eluded this program ever since Barry Alvarez got them to the Rose Bowl for the first time in 1993, and just kind of steamrolled and kept going towards getting so close to that perfect season. Can the Badgers actually have this really nice thing and do something with it? That's going to be the big question for me going into the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. You win that game, you've got a third really nice win on your resume, at least in terms of where the College Football Playoff Committee saw these teams when Wisconsin played them. And by that I mean you've got Northwestern, who has been gangbusters. They've only got 2 losses in Big Ten play. Then you've got your win over Michigan, and then you've got a potential win over Ohio State. That's your resume built perfect for this season in the college football playoff. 13-0, Big Ten champion. How do you not get in when nobody else in the Power 5 conferences even finished undefeated? So it's going to be interesting to see where the College Football Playoff Committee puts the Badgers after Alabama lost and after Miami lost this past weekend. Do the Badgers climb up to just number 4 after being number 5? Or instead, do the Badgers maybe jump all the way into that 1 or 2 category, having been rewarded for a perfect season? We'll see if that even happens. The other takeaway for me, well, folks, it's how good is this Badgers defense? In Wisconsin, They got their first shutout of a Big Ten opponent since holding Rutgers scoreless in a 37-0 win on November 1st of 2014. The Badgers also recorded their first shutout of Minnesota since 1982, and this is the first time UW has shut out the Gophers in Minneapolis. That's right, folks, on the road since 1922. Wisconsin held Minnesota to just 133 total yards. And here's where I think the impressive nature of what Wisconsin has done all season long comes into play, because it's the third team that Wisconsin has held under 200 yards this season. That also included BYU, 192 yards, and Iowa just 3 weeks ago. And guess what? The Gophers just 93 yards rushing. That's 8 of 12 regular season opponents that were held to under 100 yards on the ground. And that includes the last 4 straight. So in terms of defense, it is really hard to say the Badgers are not playing at an elite level. Yeah, you can also argue that some of them have been mediocre or really bad opponents, but at the same point in time, Wisconsin trounced them and did what they were supposed to do according to the experts, the pundits, and everything in between. So for me, this team feels like it deserves to be where it's at. The biggest question is, what happens if they lose that Big Ten championship game? With all the chaos that has gone on around the college football landscape, losing that conference championship game to Ohio State may not be the end-all be-all of Wisconsin's season. At the same point in time, it would be a very familiar feeling for Wisconsin Badgers faithful. After all, Final Four to Kentucky, National Championship to Duke. How many Rose Bowls in a row? I think you get the point. The Badgers have been this close to the ultimate greatness in both men's basketball and football for quite some time. They just have not been able to clear that final hurdle. And for the Wisconsin Badgers, I think getting into the college football playoff is going to be vital to continue to progress this program. Because can you imagine what Paul Chryst could do with a lot more 4-star talent, some 5-star talent added into the mix of what they already do very well? No doubt that this is a build and develop type of a program. It always has been. But there's nothing wrong with broadening your horizons, making your brand into a national brand, and picking and choosing select elite players to fill in what you already do well. Can the Badgers accomplish what is right in front of them? Boy, oh boy, is this going to be an interesting week and a nerve-wracking week for the Wisconsin Badger faithful. We'll have all things Big Ten championship game from your Badger perspective over at wisconsin.talking10.com. And for you Buckeye fans who might be watching as well, we've got you covered at ohiostate.talking10.com. Don't forget you can follow me on Twitter at AndyOnFootball. And please hit that subscribe button for all things Badgers video related from here at Talking Badgers.